Good evening.
What's up guys, my name is Augustine, I'm a musician and a massive fan of the Beatles, and today I'm gonna show you a very special house at 57 Wimpole Street here in London, where Paul McCartney used to live and where he wrote many songs including Yesterday. So if you love the Beatles as much as I do, this video is for you. Let's go! 57 Wimpole Street is now a private clinic. It also happens to be where Paul McCartney and John Lennon wrote I Wanna Hold Your Hand, their first US #1, and where Paul McCartney dreamt the melody of Yesterday, the most covered song of all time. The house was bought in 1957 by the Asher family. Richard Asher was an eminent doctor who specialized in mental health. His wife, Margaret, was a music teacher, and she taught a young man named George Martin how to play the oboe. Of course you know which George Martin I'm talking about. They had 3 children. Jane and Claire were both actresses, and their son Peter was a singer. Jane Asher started acting when she was only 5 years old, and she became quite famous.
What about school? Because how old are you?
I'm 13 now.
So you must go to school.
Yes, I have lessons every morning with my tutor.
You're working pretty hard.
Yes, trying to.
You've made a film before?
Yes, I've made films, some films.
On the 18th of April 1963, when she was 17, she interviewed the Beatles at the Royal Albert Hall. Apparently, all 4 of them were very impressed with her, especially George, but she got on better with Paul. They were seen together in public for the first time shortly after that, and they dated for 5 years. Paul was constantly asked whether he was going to marry her, and he even made fun of this in A Hard Day's Night, the movie, when answered, "No, we're just good friends," even before the question was asked.
No, actually, we're just good friends.
At that time, the 4 Beatles used to live together in a flat in central London, but Paul used to spend more time here at Jane Asher's house. Paul got on very well with the Asher family, and they asked him if he would like to make their family home his London base. He was giving the guest room at the top of the house at the back, so we can't actually see it from here. It was almost a self-contained apartment with its own bathroom. It had a bed, a record player, and a small piano. Under the bed, Paul kept his gold records and his MPE. Peter Asher's room was next door, and Jane and Claire's rooms were below. Paul and Jane were often apart. Paul was, of course, on tour with the Beatles, and Jane was often away on acting assignments. Paul seemed to resent that Jane wasn't there all the time. Jane certainly inspired Paul to write songs. Here, There, and Everywhere, and I Love Her, and Every Little Thing were all about Jane. However, their relationship wasn't all champagne and roses. He also wrote I'm Looking Through You, For No One, and You Won't See Me about her. Early one morning, Paul woke up in his bedroom with a tune in his head. He went straight over to the piano he had by the bed to play it. He called the tune Scrambled Eggs. Paul initially thought he was remembering the tune from someone else's, and he went around his friends asking if they recognized it. No one did, so Paul realized that he had dreamt the melody, and he wrote some proper lyrics to it. He called the tune Yesterday.
Woke up and I had the melody to song Yesterday in my brain, and I didn't have any words, so I called it Scrambled Eggs. Scrambled eggs, oh my baby, how I love you. I think the difference between me and a lot of people is they often dream about music, but they don't remember it. A couple of months later, I put some words to it.
Asher offered to teach Paul how to read and write music notation. However, Paul gave up after a few lessons. He still can't read music notation to this day. But Mrs. Asher did succeed at teaching Paul how to play the recorder. He can be heard playing the instrument on The Fool on the Hill. Paul became good friends with Peter, Jane Asher's brother, and his friend Gordon Waller. They sang under the name of Peter and Gordon. Paul wrote a song called A World Without Love, but John Lennon didn't like it, so he decided to give the song to Peter and Gordon, who just got signed to EMI Records. The single reached #1 in the US and UK. Personally, I think it's a great song, and I would have loved to hear it recorded by the Beatles.
Please lock me away and don't allow the day here inside where I hide with my loneliness. I don't care what you say, I won't stay in a world without love.
Peter became involved in a project to open an art gallery and bookshop with 2 friends. Paul was also very interested in the project and he donated money so it could open. It was called the Indica Art Gallery and it was where John Lennon met Yoko Ono in November 1966. Mrs. Asher's music room was down here in the basement. John Lennon was a regular visitor of the house and he and Paul used to write songs here all the time. It was not long after Paul moved in that they wrote I Wanna Hold Your Hand here in the music room. Gordon Waller remembers that John was on a pedal organ and Paul was on a piano. April 1965, Paul bought a house in St. John's Wood and I actually made a video visiting that house, so if you want to check it out, I'm gonna leave the link here and also there in the description. Paul and Jane moved in a few months later, however they started to drift apart. Paul and Jane announced their engagement on Christmas Day 1967, but they broke up in May 1968. It's been said that Paul wanted Jane to give up her acting career and start a family, but she refused. Tragically, Dr. Richard Asher committed suicide at 57 Wimpole Street in 1969. Not surprisingly, the family moved out soon afterwards. The house was sold in the early 2000s for £2 million and it's now a private clinic. Mrs. Asher offered to teach Paul how to read and write love. Paul wrote a song called A World Without Love, but John Lennon didn't like it. Paul wrote a song called A World Without Love, but John Lennon didn't like it. Tragically, Dr. Richard Asher committed suicide. Okay, so I'm back in my flat now. This is pretty much all I have to say about 57 Wimpole Street. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. You can also follow me on Instagram and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to watch more videos like this. I have many videos about the Beatles. I'm gonna link some of them here in the description. And there's also a PayPal link that you can use if you want to support me with a small donation. That would be really appreciated. I'm working on many videos right now all about the Beatles, so if you have any ideas for future videos, please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching until the end. See you in the next one. Bye.
Well, I'm afraid that's just run out of time.
Oh,
I'm really
okay.
sorry.
Well,
So,
thanks.
Bye everyone.
thank you very much
Thank you.
for playing.
If I give my heart to you, I must be